United States Air Force Academy is an amazing place steeped in long blue line history and brimming over with stories. I'm Steve Simon, class of 77, and I'm here to tell them. This is the Heritage Minute.
Welcome to a Heritage Minute special with Lieutenant Colonel retired Steve Simon, USAFA class of 77 and U.S. Air Force Academy Association and Foundation writer and historian. And now, here is your host, Steve Simon.
Hello, and welcome to the Heritage Minute podcast. I'm your host, Steve Simon. Today, I have the honor of welcoming my friend, Chief Master Sgt. Retired Bob Vasquez. He is the Association of Graduates' newest honorary member. So we've known each other for, I'm guessing, like 15 years, I think. Well, I think we met when we both had programs on CAFA, the cadet radio station. Is that...
Something like that.
Yeah.
Time is relative, Steve. That's what Einstein said.
Yeah.
So I don't worry about that too much. But we've known each other for a while.
A long time, and it's been a great association.
Yeah.
So more on the CAFA thing later. I want to get into that later. You're one of the original podcasters, I think, as it turns out. But anyway, before we get there, please share with our audience how you came to join the Air Force.
You know, it's an interesting thing because a lot of people who have known me or do know me think that I was a patriot. And I was not. Is that correct?
Yeah. Understand. Huh?
Anyway, all of my uncles were served. I had one uncle who was in the airborne with during World War II. He had 5 Bronze Stars. So I come from a family of patriots, but that's not why I came in. I came in 1972, and if you remember what was happening in 1972, I had gone to college. I was going to New Mexico State University in Las Cruces, and we had that 4F deferment. So as long as you were going to school, you didn't have to go you wouldn't get drafted. Well, somehow Tricky Dick Nixon, I don't know if you remember him. I didn't like him very much, but anyway, he pulled that or something happened, and they pulled our deferments. So all of a sudden, we're all eligible. And I remember in the newspaper that we used to read was the El Paso Times. I think or El Paso Herald Post. That's what it was. And I remember seeing this edition with the list of new people that were going to be called up, drafted. And my number was like number 4. I was going into the Army. I was going to get drafted. And I said, nah, I don't think so. Now, I had a choice. I could have gone to Mexico. I could have fit in right there, but that's not my lifestyle. Or I could have gone to Canada, and I would not fit in there. I can't say A after every other word. So anyway, I ended up, I had a friend, Chuck Wilson, who had graduated 2 years, I think, before me from New Mexico State, and he had joined the Air Force Band. So I gave him a call and said, hey, this is where I'm at, man. If you can't help me, I'm sunk. And he said, let me see what I can do. So a couple of weeks later, he got an audition set up for me. I went out to March Air Force Base in California, and I auditioned as a bassoonist. And they accepted me, and I came in. Now, I wasn't going to stay. I was staying for 4 years. They wanted me to cut my hair. Can you believe that? Can you imagine? I mean, look at this. This is like a fro, kind of. But I said, okay, I'll do 4 years and I'm out. And I served 50 years altogether. Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know what happened. I do know what happened. It's the people.
No, that does happen. I know a lot of people that said, the 5 and dive thing, and then end up not getting out just because, again, you get to.
Well, they pay you so much, Steve. I mean, it's a lot of money being in the military, And
the camaraderie and the friendships and the work and everything. So were you a bandsman then your whole time? Because I can't imagine there were many chief master sergeants in the band.
Well, we started out, when I first came in 1972, we had, 26, 27 bands. We had plenty of them. Okay. And I think they all had at least one chief. But little by little, I think we have 5 now, maybe. We've just been getting rid of them. But I did that for 24 of the 31 active duty years. I also was in PME. I did both PMEs, Professional Military Education and Professional Military Entertainment. So I'm the only guy I think that's ever done that. But I served I was the commandant for the NCO Academy at March Air Force Base 20 years after I came into the
back to Riverside.
Yeah, indeed. And then I served as the senior enlisted advisor for the commander at Fairchild Air Force Base. And then I went to Germany, and I was the deputy director for family support for a little while. And
at Ramstein.
At Ramstein, yep. Eventually, they threw me out. 31 years, and I'm just getting started. I'm finally learning what I should be learning as a chief, and they say, you're out of here. So interestingly, that all happened right around 9/11. So they were about to throw me out with 30 years of service, and then 9/11 happened, and then they wouldn't let me out. So I had to serve another 9 months. So that's how I ended up with 31 years.
And then they said, get out.
And then, they gave me like 3 weeks. You're out. Oh,
so it wasn't the band that brought you to the Air Force Academy then. I was thinking maybe you were like Becky Hero and some other people we know that came here in the band and just branched out from there.
Well, especially as a chief, you can do a lot of different things. That's I think I'll say the premier, because we like to use that word, leadership position. You do a lot of things. So it's not like I was stuck. And officers do that too. As they get rise up the ladder of success, they end up doing other things. So I enjoy doing different things. It's like that cartoon on what is it? I can't remember that. Where it's squirrel, you see a squirrel, there he goes. Let me go do that. So I enjoy doing that. So it's fun.
And so then an opportunity came for you to come here to the Air Force Academy from Germany. Then, correct?
Yes, Colonel Voloshin, a good friend of mine, told me about the position that was opening up here at the CCLD and the Center for Character, and it was Center for Character. Didn't have the leadership part in there, and anyway, I think there were like 65 people that applied for it, and I ended up getting it, and I had 2 weeks to get out of Germany and get here for that job. So a lieutenant colonel at the time, Russ Sojourner, says, hey, you got the job, but you got to be here the 16th of November. It's like the 1st of November, so yeah, okay. And I did it. But, you got to do what you got to do. And this was the last base that we were at before we went to Germany, and we spent 6.5 years there. And then after they threw me out, I came back here, and I'd never been assigned here. I didn't know anything about the academy. I didn't know that it existed like most people, but it was great. Somehow I had to come back, and this is the place.
Okay. Obviously, very happy you did. So, what was your initial position? What were you hired to do? I know your role evolved over the years.
Well, and to do the vector program for the 4 degrees.
Okay,
that was it. So, and I did that for about 15 or 16 years. Time is relative. Yeah. I said that, and then we reorganized again, as we always do here at USAFA, and I moved to under the comm for the last 3 years or so, doing writing curriculum for. Officer education, or I'm not even sure what we called it, but and that was not my thing. I'm not. I write curriculum, and if anyone's hiring, I'm available and affordable. But that's not my cup of tea. I'd rather be among the youngsters,
in front of the people. Yeah,
indeed.
Having seen you in action, that's totally where you belong. So, any of your experiences stand out in CCLD? That I know you, like you said, you were in front of cadets and officers.
Yeah, well. Nothing in particular, Steve, other than the daily things. What I tried to do, and one of the things, I think this will put in perspective, I still send these emails out with words of wisdom. They're quotes. And I used to send them out to all of the cadets at 3 o'clock in the morning when I get up. And they always ask me, are you really up at the 3 o'clock? And I say, yeah. And why? Well, for various reasons, but one is so that all of you know that there's someone, happens to be a chief, who cares about you at 3 o'clock in the morning. You need to reach me, I'm available. Just email me back. And a lot of people did. And mostly the emails were, thanks, Chief, I needed that one. And then I call that air power, HEIR power, empowering people to get through the day, and particularly the 4 degrees. You remember those days. That's the toughest year,
Remember it very well.
But, we all need some kind of help, and if I can help anybody. So now let me go back, change my mind here. There was one thing that happened that was very cool in Vector. As we're doing the normal stuff, I asked them, why did you come? What's your purpose in coming? I can't think of his name. He was from Afghanistan, one of our exchange students. And he stands up and says, my country is dying. I'm here to learn everything that I can so that I can go back home and save my country.
That's powerful.
And you can imagine, you get 64 degrees and facilitator, it's a din of noise of all kinds of stuff. When he said that, no one said anything. It was
instant perspective.
Yes. And what's almost funny is because I was asking particularly the football players just before that, I came to play D1 football and all that other stuff. Yeah. And he says, this cadet says that I'm here to protect my country. So, wow. That's why we're here. Yeah. So that'll always, I haven't heard from him. I don't know what's going on. But just the idea of I'm here so I can learn, so I can protect my country. Pretty tough stuff. So I loved it. And those things happened all the time, especially from 4 degrees, because we think that 4 degrees are nothing. We think of them as second lieutenants. No, they're great. They're wonderful people, Just give them a chance and they'll surprise you.
That's funny. So I mentioned earlier KAFA. So I know we started working each other there, whether we met each other or not. I was, and still am, just your average DJ, but you had actually an actual program, Character Matters, which driving in today, I was thinking that was actually a podcast. It wasn't called a podcast, but it went out over the air, but it was essentially the exact same format that we're doing now, bring in guests and talk about it. So
we were ahead of it, man. We didn't even realize that.
You invented the whole art form.
That and the wheel.
Yeah. How did you get going with Character Matters?
I don't. You asked me that when you sent me an email, and I don't remember. Other than, do you remember Dave West, who was the program,
the previous station manager?
Exactly. And he was my producer, and. But before that, we were just talking one day, and I don't even know how we met. I don't know how I ended up at the studio, but I did. And we're having just chatting, and I was telling him, and probably started with him asking me what I did, and I was telling him that I taught character. And we got to the point, that would be an interesting topic to do a show on. It wasn't a podcast. And what I did was I interviewed people about their perspective on character, particularly the cadets. And I had... Simon Sinek on there. I had Chief Gaylor, God bless him. I had a lot of people.
You had a lot of
the superintendent,
really important guests.
General Clark, and a lot of people were on that show. But the most important ones and the most fun ones were the cadets. Yeah. Especially the 4 degrees, asking them about what is character. I mean, it was amazing what they would come up with, and why did you come? Those were 2 questions that I always asked them. But that was a lot of fun. And I quit doing it because of COVID. Right. They threw us out and said, everybody go home for 2.5 years or something. And then in between, I retired and just never got back to doing it.
And you did that for several years, right? I don't remember how many. I want to say 10, a decade 15, even. But it was a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time. So if a con man is out there and I'm ready to come back, man, we can negotiate because he didn't pay me much, but zero, just there was nothing in front of the zero. So, but I'll come back. Yeah,
CAFA's a great institution. I know I'm really proud to be part of it. So, okay, so you're retired from the CCLD in 2022, but I know you're still active up here. In fact, I ran into you in the library not too long ago. So what are you doing these days?
Well, whatever she says. I don't answer to the man anymore, but I answer to the woman. You know what that's all about. But I write a lot. I've written, not since then, but throughout the last 20 years or so. I've written 15, I think, or 16
I was going to ask about that as well. I know you're an accomplished author among your many skills.
And I do that a lot. I do a lot of podcasting. I enjoy doing that. And it's a little bit of speaking whenever I can. And I didn't do it a lot because of COVID, because you couldn't travel or anything. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping to get back into that and teaching and mentoring. Luckily we have, with the technology that we have, Steve, you can touch anybody anywhere. Mm-hmm. So I get to do a lot of Zoom calls and FaceTime calls and helping youngsters
Teams,
back to air power, helping those youngsters. I just started a new podcast this year based on my first book, So You Want to Be the Chief, where I'm trying to mentor the new chiefs. It's an interesting thing. Okay. These young, I call them young lions, and they don't know what to do as a chief. If I knew, because back in the day, the old chiefs took us under their wing and beat the crap out of us.
No, that's important.
Not literally, but when I put that chief stripe on, that last one on, I knew how to be a chief. And now I don't want to say they're struggling, but they kind of wonder. So I do a similar thing like we're doing right now. I interview young chiefs and ask them, what can you give to these young chiefs that they're just putting them on to become a good chief? So It's been very popular, and I enjoy it. I get to learn a lot, and I love learning. I really do love learning for about anything. I'm getting into cooking.
Yeah, there you go.
But my wife won't let me in the kitchen, so I have all the theory, though.
Any particular type of cuisine?
No, just as long as it tastes good. And I love MRE, so.
So everything tastes good?
Everything.
Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
Pretty low standard there, I'd say. But so now you're an honorary member of the Association of Graduates. So what does that recognition mean to you?
Well, I'm looking for the parking spot. That's why I want recognition, over at the commissary.
I'll get to work on that.
Yeah, it's way over there right now, so we'll move it up. It's an honor. It really is, and we use that word a lot here at USAFA, honor. And that word really is connected to privilege. It's a privilege to have been here and done what I got to do. And it's an honor to be among y'all. As I said in my talk, when I received the award or the recognition, we say that we are here to teach youngsters to develop into leaders of character, and that's important, and we should do that. But what they actually do is develop into a family. And I mean, you have friends that you were a 77 grad? Yes. So you still have friends I know that you're pretty closely connected to from those way back when, and that's what they end up doing. And I think in the military, all of the military, I've gained a lot of Army friends lately, but especially in the Air Force, we all become family. We all become family. I mentioned in my talk the other day, I remember my daughter, who was around 6-7 years old. We had just gotten to base X, and her friends, new friends, they got to make new friends. Mm-hmm. They were having this conversation, and I overhear it. They ask her, "Where are you guys from?" And Tessa says, "Base housing." Oh. That's typical. That's typical.
That's her world.
Yes, that is. So I think that's what I feel so proud of, that I'm part of this family. That and the grads, while I was in CCLD, always helped me. Mm-hmm. Man, if I ever needed anything, I just called a grad, Colonel Montgomery. Mm-hmm. Love him. Sir, I need some help. Well, let me get you some people. Okay. Yeah. And that's all it took. And y'all were just ready to do what air power, to build air power. So I am so grateful that I'm part of that now. And, I respect every one of you. I didn't go through what you did, but I saw it for 19 years, and I respect what you all went through. What is it? Embrace the suck, I think. That should be the motto up at the gate as you come in the gate. But
at the ramp.
Yeah, and I'll do this formally. I believe that my lieutenants that graduate from the United States Air Force Academy are better than any other lieutenant who graduates from anywhere for the first 2 years. Yeah. After that, mm-hmm. they've assimilated,
right?
And it's filtered out. But for those first 2 years, because of what y'all have gone through, what we've taught them, the things that they either learned it or kind of messed it up. But I think they're better than anybody else. Now, Army's going to say the same thing, and Navy's going to say the same thing, but they're liars. We have the best people. Bring it on.
Well, all I can say is that your honorary membership was richly deserved, and I'm so glad to see you acknowledged as one of the most influential individuals the Academy's staff and faculty has ever known, and I mean that sincerely. So this might be a dangerous thing for me to do, but I'm going to open it up to you. Any final comments? Anything you want?
I always start my talks with this. I'm Chief Master Sgt. Retired Bob Vasquez. I produce shining stars for the United States of America. Now, let me tell you something about this place we call America. There's no place like this place, anywhere near this place. So this must be the place. That's all I got.
That's it. Well, thank you, Chief. I greatly appreciate you coming in today.
My pleasure.
Thanks so much.
You've been listening to a Heritage Minute special with Lieutenant Colonel Retired Steve Simon, USAFA Class of 77. The Heritage Minute special is a production of the Long Blue Line Podcast Network and presented by the U.S. Air Force Academy Association and Foundation.
Thank you for listening to the Heritage Minute podcast. If you enjoyed this story, we encourage you to subscribe, share it with your family and friends, and post it to your social channels. The podcast drops every week on Sunday. Subscribe to Heritage Minute on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn Plus Alexa, and all your favorite podcast platforms. Search at Air Force Grads on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and more for show announcements and updates. And visit usafa.org/Heritage Minute Podcast for past episodes and to listen to more Long Blue Line Podcast Network programming. I'm Steve Simon, class of 77, and this is the Heritage Minute.